It's an emotional return for Brandon Montour as the Seattle Kraken come back to Climate Pledge Arena and Monty gets back into the locker room. This is an episode of Locked on Kraken, but you're actually going to hear the Locked on NHL intro because I'm in a different studio. But Locked on Kraken coming up for you.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network's 2024 NHL season preview. Your team every day.
Well, it's not a season preview, but it is a preview of tonight's game. Erica L. Ayala here, your host of Locked on Kraken. Wanted to come on here. It was an emotional pregame morning skate. We got to hear from Brandon Montour. And, I will say for anyone who has dealt with the grieving process or lost a family member, I just want to say up front, this could be an emotional segment or clip that we're about to play, but I wanted to play Brandon Montour's comments because I also, as someone who has lost a family member, I think there's something that he says on the back end. We won't play the whole thing, but I'll play a significant a portion and amount. It can be difficult to get back to quote unquote normal, and you play a game for your job, and there are a lot of emotions. There's a lot of stakes involved. And Brandon Montour, at least in this moment, he can acknowledge that this is an ongoing process for him. He also acknowledged that it's difficult to know what to say in a moment like this. But he does seem to have the support of his team. Yes, Striatic, Monty is still in deep grief. I mean, again, unfortunately, I've been there before. It's not an easy thing. And, I felt conflicted. I felt really conflicted about posting his availability today. I know it's a storyline coming from a daily Seattle Kraken podcast. And so I have a job, in essence, to do. But again, as someone who's lost a very close family member and then changed professions very shortly after because of how I was expected to kind of quote unquote get back to normal. I don't know. I felt like there might be some good in just hearing how Brandon Montour is feeling, what he's processing. You even made a joke a little bit about him getting emotional and what his brother might say about that. So I don't know. I get it. Some people might not want to watch this, and that's why I'm letting you know up top that we're going to hear from Brandon Montour about the passing of his brother Cameron. And I respect anyone's individual decision here. Because as I say every episode, you got to be kind and take care of yourself. I guess my hope is that I'm extending some space for people who maybe can appreciate and hear from someone that's really in it. But anyway, here's Brandon Montour. I did want to lead with his comments, and then we'll get into tonight's game a little bit. But here's Brandon Montour in his first media availability since returning from his personal leave of absence.
Yeah, so my older brother's been dealing with ALS for 3-4 years now, and it was a rough week, and very proud, very happy to be his brother, somebody that I've looked up to since obviously day one, and a great son, brother, best friend, father. He's got 2 baby girls. But he battled hard. You got to put everything into perspective with all the highs that I've had in the last couple of years with winning and hockey and having babies and creating my own family. he was at home battling. And, you know, right till the Monday when it happened, you know, he was smiling and he was ready. So, again, proud of him. You know, the family's having a tough go. Obviously, you lose one so close. But to have everyone together and, you know, for the week was good. And being back here in Seattle and seeing my kids and being a part of this again, you know, keep my mind off, you know, other things, which would be good. But miss him. And, again, he's probably smiling and chirping me up there, you know, for crying. But love him. And, yeah, it was a tough week.
Yeah, Striatic, I'm with you. It's definitely difficult to watch. I mean, to state the obvious, I can only speak for myself. Again, having gone through this, and I just know that before my dad died, I didn't really understand this process that Brandon Montour is going through. And it took me a little while to forgive my younger self for maybe saying the wrong things or doing the wrong things when people that I knew were dealing with it. And so again, that's why I don't know. I wanted to share Brandon's thoughts here because, you know, I get to host this podcast and have hosted it while going through my grieving process. You know, technically I started the show after my dad died, but the grieving process, as Brandon Montour says later in his availability, I mean, it's a long road. And again, I just didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. And you know, the hearts and or the thoughts and prayers we are saddened to hear, you know, those it's not that they're not important, but they are so hard to process. They're extremely hard to process. I mean, his brother passed away Monday. And you know, maybe everyone's different. He obviously was away for the team longer than Monday. So the family knew, my assumption is the family knew that this was coming. And from the timeline, I can only deduce that Brandon got to spend some time with family, with his brother, which is a good thing. And it's a hard thing. It's an extremely emotional thing. My father also had a long-term illness. Again, can only speak for myself. There are nothing's the same. Nothing's the same. And sometimes, or for me, doing something air quote normal, even if it was just going through the motions and I couldn't kind of feel it, it was better than this gravitational force and suck of grief that I was feeling at the time. So Brandon Montour, maybe he doesn't play tonight. Maybe, you know, maybe we don't see him after tonight for another 3 weeks. I don't know. You know, I don't know that he knows. I can't imagine that it won't be emotional, you know, now that he shared why he was away. It's out there. It might bring another wave of emotions, because sometimes my experience, again, people again will say things that they're well-meaning, but everyone's experience is a little different. So I feel like in some ways, since going through my own experience, I felt a very strong responsibility to be more open about speaking about grief, to be more open about giving people space to feel. And I don't always do a great job. for myself or for other people. So I don't know. I don't know what tonight means for Brandon Montour. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I do just because I've also lost a family member. I don't know what it means for Brandon. It's a very intimate, personal experience, and you could have someone in his same family react completely different. And so I think that what I want to say as we very awkwardly transition in a little bit is I want us to just hold space for Brandon Montour and for the Kraken right now, because yes, they have a job and they're going to do their best for those who are out there on the ice tonight. And you gotta understand that this is heavy, not just for Monty. These guys are in the locker room together. They get to know each other's families, and you talk about the marriages and the babies and the dad power of guys, even like Monty coming back after having a child, or their family introducing a child. This is the opposite end of the spectrum. And for all the joy that we share together collectively, on the one side, it can impact more than just the Montour family, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm impacted. You know, I'm impacted by this news. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing, but it's real. So I don't know what tonight will look like. I don't know what it will look like for Montour. And I'm just going to trust that he's going to do what's right for him in the moment, knowing that, at least from my experience, what he wanted this morning is probably different than what he wanted this afternoon, and will be different from what he wants tomorrow. It's an ongoing process. And I just wanted to share that, I'm going to do my best to hold space for Montour and his family. And I think that's the only other thing I can do is just, again, share a little bit of that journey. And if anyone else has gone through this or is going through this, because again, 3 or 4 years, Montour said that his brother was dealing with ALS. That's tough. That's a grieving process. There's the death, but then there's the grief of the journey as well. So I just wanted to share that because it's going to be a heavy day. I'm with you, Striatic. I mean, sometimes from my experience, a hug, a knowing and supportive look, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it's more than enough. Sometimes trying to describe or relate, or I mean, even honestly, what I've been doing. Oh, my dad did this, and my family that. Those things can be overwhelming to someone still trying to wrap themselves around their own emotions, and sometimes there's grief or shame or anger, and all these very natural emotions. And it is tough. It's tough. But yeah, just kind of holding space, being silent with someone, I think is really good. And yeah, like you said, we have to trust that he knows himself and when he needs to come back. And again, that could change. So I don't want us to, I've seen it in sports, especially when men decide to take paternity leave. There's a lot of judgment around that. Excuse me. What I hope doesn't happen, and what I certainly am just going to be honest, I won't tolerate on any Locked On Kraken comment channels is, well, whatever happens tonight in the game, this man could give up 5 goals. Not ideal, obviously, and we'll talk about the game, I promise, in a little bit, but a hockey game is a privilege when you have just said goodbye to your older sibling. I mean, I don't have any older siblings. So that's also another dynamic. But if this is something to help him find joy, to reconnect with himself, and the Kraken are there for him for that, that's success, air quotes, to me. But again, what I think doesn't matter. And I guess that's, if I can maybe be a little more firm in saying this, what we think about his situation is just that. It's just what we think. I don't even know if Brandon knows, you know? So whatever he needs, it seems like the Kraken organization is there for him. And maybe he suits up, goes through warmups, and never takes a shift. I don't know. Technically he's listed in, I think it's Bob Condor's 3-game essentials. I mean, he's listed on there. We know things can always be game time decisions, so we don't know. But I guess we'll find out. So I just wanted to share that. Again, not the easiest conversation. And I'm with you. This is the most important thing for me, Striatic, what you wrote here. I just hope he doesn't feel rushed, because that's what I felt. There's a point in time when, especially if you have someone that's been ill for a while, where it's kind of coming, whether you exactly know, or at least that was my experience. And so you have to start explaining to people why you're not going to be around, or why you won't be available, or whatever the case is. And, at first you'll get the take as much time as you need. And then eventually you start getting my experience. Then I started getting the, okay, well, we're coming up on 2 weeks. What are you thinking about this? What are you thinking about that? Have you sent this to so-and-so so they can, I'm not thinking about the spreadsheets, Karen. I'm just not. So again, I don't know what this version of Brandon Montour is going to be. I don't think that he knows. I just hope that as an organization, and certainly as a community here for Locked On Kraken, that we accept what we get as it is. As it is. No questions asked. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. So to the Montour family, we are here with you. We're here with you. We're going to take a little break here. I'm going to take a little break. Again, we're in a different studio, actually. This is the NHL studio. I scheduled this wrong, so some of the graphics will be a little different if you're watching live. If you're watching edited, I'll fix all of it, so you're like, what is she talking about? But we did get some news about Jared McCann. We saw that Capo Caco hit the ice, and we got some insight from Lane Lambert about Yanni Newman and how he feels he's coming along. So we'll get into some of that on this pregame episode of Locked On Kraken, which is living on the Locked On NHL channel for right now. All right, Seattle hockey fans, that was a tough open. I tried to give as much warning as possible in case it just wasn't something that you wanted to listen to, which, that's, blessings to anyone who doesn't know what this grief feels like. Truly, I truly mean that. I'm not even being whatever. I was there once too. And when you cross that border, it's a little bit trippy. To know that you once existed in a world where you didn't know that hurt, but other people did. At least that's how I sometimes think about it. Very trippy for me. But again, the show goes on here. The Kraken, Lane Lambert was asked in his remarks earlier today. He was very supportive of Brandon. He said the team has been and will continue to be. So again, this isn't something that ends tonight because Brandon Montour had immediate availability. It's an ongoing thing. It's a lifelong thing for him and his family, and something that the Kraken are going to manage. But the Kraken are coming home. And I talked about on the last, after the last game in Winnipeg, the win, that Adam Larson was on the radio broadcast post game, and he talked about that the Seattle Kraken, they know they don't have a great home record historically, and that's one of the things that this team wants to focus on. If we look at some of the notes that we have for this game against Edmonton, some players that we are still expecting to be out, Capo Caco, although we did see him at morning skate, he's still in his process, but he's starting to get repetitions on the ice, so that's good. Jared McCann was placed on injured reserve today, but what we heard from Lane Lambert is that was more about managing the 23-player roster. So what that means to me is that Jared McCann is probably progressing about as well as the team expected. But he doesn't have, an immediate return date in place. So again, to kind of manage and maneuver the roster, and bringing Brandon Montour back into the fold, that was a way to do that, is just to give McCann a little more time to be able, because now he'll have to be out a certain amount of games because he was officially placed on injured reserve. We still have also Freddie Gaudreau. So it's Capo, Evans, and Gaudreau on IR. With Caco maybe hitting the ice, and you bring McCann to IR, maybe it is Capo who might be that player that we have that flexibility with, because McCann is on the injured reserve list. This is the first home game in 12 days after a 6-game road trip. Also, I did a video about this last night, and then I don't know, just some weird things happened. But tonight is also newcomer night. Celebrating, this is from the media notes, celebrating new Seattleites and challenging the city's reputation for the Seattle Freeze. So that was something fun that the team put together. They will have in attendance players from the new PWHL team. They don't list the names of the players, but if I had to guess, it's probably the players that we saw earlier in the week. So that would be Corrine Schroeder, goaltender, Kayla Barnes, defender. Then you have, let's see, who else was there? Jenna Bugliotti, right? And Hillary Knight and Alex Carpenter. So we'll see who is there, especially knowing that there are going to be some national team duties here coming up for some of those folks. But also in attendance will be Dominique Malonga, the number 2 overall pick that went to the Seattle Storm in the 2025 draft, WNBA draft. And I also saw that Dominique Malonga, as well as Jordan Horston and Gabby Williams, went to like a haunted mansion or something in Seattle. Also, it was funny because Gabby Williams dressed up as Bob Ross, and then Jordan Horston was wearing all black, and then there was a cutout. So she put her face in a cutout and was Bob Ross's art, which I thought was really funny. But so if you see, Dominique Malonga dressed as Shrek, which I thought was really funny. So like a 6'2" version of Shrek, just walking around, a much more slender version of Shrek walking around a haunted house in Seattle. It was a really funny little social media post there. But breaking down this Seattle Freeze for newcomers night. I thought that was a nice little promo here. And also, I've said this on the show before. Also, when Joe, Ava, and I talked, we talked about what kind of crossovers we want to see. And so I don't think this is one newcomers night isn't one that any one of us said explicitly, but we all want to see more crossovers. So excited to see how the Seattle Kraken receive, obviously, not only Brandon Montour, but some women's hockey, elite level women's hockey and women's basketball players that will be in attendance tonight. It's Malunga's first Kraken game, so that's super exciting. Okay. As far as the Seattle Kraken, they're coming in 4-2-2, 10 points, and 4-3-1. Edmonton Oilers. We talked about the standings earlier in the week. The Seattle Kraken, after their win, were able to be second in the division heading into this game. And, I think there's still a lot that this team has to do to be a better and the best version of themselves. They showed that, I think, thinking about that Winnipeg game. They showed what Kraken hockey could really look like. And we are only one of 2 teams in the division to reach double digits in standings points behind Vegas Golden Knights. Anaheim and Edmonton both have 9 points just behind us. Vancouver and LA in 6 right now. Interesting. They have 8 points, and then San Jose with 4 points, but Calgary, rock bottom, a 167 win percentage, just the 3 points on the season, a 1-7-1 record here. So yeah, things not looking great for Calgary. But for this Seattle team, we're not dominating games. We have to play, again, lunch pail, blue collar, hardworking, defensive minded games in order to be successful. It was talked about the goaltending. I thought Joey looked a little fatigued until recently. I mean, obviously he had the shutout, so that was great. It was good to see him bounce back. But we're also seeing, because the Seattle Kraken are carrying 3 goaltenders on the roster, which we've talked about, that they can give a goaltender a rest during practice and morning skate repetitions. And so most recently that was Joey Daccord. Also, just a side note about practice, the matte helmets that will be for the bioluminescent Abyss Awakens 3rd jerseys, those have been in rotation, we know, a couple of weeks. I guess at the front end of the road trip, we saw the guys break in some of their other their other equipment for those, because we've got our first game coming up. But yeah, I agree with you, Striatic, here. It's something that I've been thinking about a lot, because yes, Edmonton is below us in the standings, and they got to the Stanley Cup final in the last 2 seasons. We know, as we heard Lane Lambert say earlier today, he said something akin to, we know who's on their team. And of course we all do. We all know who's on that roster. And so you can't take a night off. But what Striatic is saying here is the Oilers are a good challenge, and I agree with you. They typically dominate the Kraken, but are struggling a little right now. Time to see if the Lambert Kraken fare better. And I think, yes, you take that into consideration. Again, I walked through some of the stats just now, but you have to play your game. Regardless of what version you're going to get from the other team, you have to play your game. And that's what I think the team did in Winnipeg. And that's what they have to do tonight. You don't want it to be this trap game where they kind of fall into, oh, they're not playing too well, and you start looking at the standings and baka baka. It's still, Connor McDavid. It's still Leon Draisaitl. Like those are still the names that you're going up against. You know what I mean? And maybe they've had an off night the last however many games, 7, 8 games, but who's to say that game number 9, literally game number 9 for the Kraken, won't be the one where they bust it open. And we don't want to be the team that allows them to bust it wide open. So we have to rely on our discipline, which comes from the defensive end. I've talked to you about 50-50s. We know what this team needs to be doing on face-off, which kind of relates to 50-50s, but is something that we hear a lot from Lane Lambert. Striatic, just going back to newcomers night. It's been fun to see social media of PWHL players discovering Seattle. It reminds me of when I first came here and discovered how much I loved it. I'm with you. I love being able to see different things in Seattle. For a really long stretch, I was only coming to Seattle in the summertime. And so getting to see and experience other things has been fun. I don't get to do a lot of it because I'm usually in Seattle specific for hockey stuff or sports stuff overall, which kind of fills my itinerary. But I have a long stretch that I'll be in Seattle for almost a month again. And so I look forward to exploring a little more. And if you have any recommendations, drop them in the chat. Okay. Let's hear a little bit from Lane Lambert. a little bit towards the back end. Again, he did speak about Brandon Montour. He did speak about Jared McCann, etc. But I want to play the video. Actually, you know what? Let's hear a little from Shane Wright. Shane Wright is such an interesting player. His development is kind of like this slow and steady, but I think he's doing the right things. And I think that he has the integrity to be able to take what's coming to him. So we did hear from Shane Wright. He always has this really adorable way. I say that adorable mostly because he's younger than me, so it's more of a like maternal instinct that I say that, just to be clear and hopefully not creepy. But yeah, I think there's an innocence to that's probably a better way of saying it. There's an innocence to him kind of saying, and a humility of him saying, you know, it hasn't been the best for me at times and I'm working on figuring it out. I think he's just an earnest, innocent, straightforward kind of guy when he speaks to us, you know. And so here's what Shane Wright makes of the season and his performance so far. Wait a minute. I just noticed in that clip, it looks like Allison Lucan is wearing the same hoodie that I am. So has nothing to do with Shane Wright. Also, these clips are a little, they sound on my end, we're doing this live, they sound a little muted and low. So apologies if the audio isn't great for live, but I will fix that for when we post this a little bit later. Anyway, Shane Wright, I just got distracted. I was like, that's my hoodie. Here's Shane Wright.
Road trip ends with a big win. What are your takeaways from just kind of the benefit of that trip as a whole and what you guys were able to do?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of positives. I think obviously, you know, a couple great wins to start, and yeah, I mean, it was overall really good trip. A couple tough games in Philly and Washer, but you know, great way to end it there in Winnipeg.
What were you proud of defensively in that game against Winnipeg?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really high-powered offensive team that we, you know, ended up shutting out, and you know, just really took away a lot of their chances. Really, just, you know, limit their high danger looks, and yeah, I mean, that's the way we got to play if we want to win, especially against, you know, better teams in the league like that.
Shane, you've been around for a couple of years now. What does it mean to have the positive start that you guys have had here to the season?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think, you know, anytime you just get off to a hot start, I think, yeah, just guys feel good in the room. You know, you feel confident in your game, you feel confident about your style of play and what's happening, and yeah, you just want to keep building off that.
And how do you feel about your game personally right now?
Yeah, I think it's been good. I think you know, some ups and downs so far, but you know, some, like the team, you know, a lot of positives I can you know, take from my play, and you know, a lot of things I can you know, be better at too. But
Shane, you mentioned style of play. There was probably a bit of a learning curve in camp, but do you feel like the group is now pretty synced up with the way Lane wants you guys to play?
yeah, I think so. Obviously, you know, new coach and new systems and stuff, new message. It's going to take a little bit to adjust to, but yeah, I think we've done a great job. You know, listening to Lane, and you know, he's done a great job getting that message across and helping us understand, you know, how he wants us to play, and yeah, I think we're doing a great job, kind of you know, showing that on the ice in the games.
Shane, it's kind of a cliche in sports, but confidence builds confidence. You mentioned that Winnipeg game, you looked confident. How does it feel in this room, and do you feel it building?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a game, you know, we want to build off of for sure. I think anytime you can, you know, shut out a team like that and one of the best teams in the league, I think it's always something you can you know, really feel confident about and take a lot of positives from. And yeah, another great team tonight, good test for us as well.
And kind of more on a detailed level, you're one of the players responsible mainly for face-offs. There's the battle that you have, but then there's secondary battles from your wingers, from support. How would you describe what's important besides what you do on the dot in a face-off?
Yeah, I mean, first off, personally, I got to be better at face-offs, but I think it's yeah, it's obviously a five-man unit. You know, you gotta have your wingers coming in and help, and you know, we always have a plan and a play. You know, whatever draw it is, whatever dot you're at, there's always kind of a set play and something you want to do if you win, and you know what to do when you lose the draw. So yeah, it's always you know, a big battle in the game. It's something that's you know, really important for us.
This might be strange because so many people look at the face-off stat, but let's say you technically lose the face-off, but the puck gets where you want it to be. Is that still a win in your mind? Maybe if it's not even on the number sheet?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not really as much about the numbers. I think it's about, you know, the possession, where the puck goes, and who gets it and all that. And yeah, the analytics and the number side of it's less important for sure.
Shane, obviously a lot of guys stepped up on the trip amid all the injuries and stuff, but especially Schwartzy. What does it say that a guy like him always seems to find a way to elevate his game when you guys are facing any kind of adversity?
Yeah, I mean, his game's always elevated, but I think his ability to elevate against those better teams and those tougher situations. Obviously, a lot of guys hurt, but he stepped up really big for us and was huge on the trip for us.
I mean, Jaden Schwartz, you know how I feel about Jaden Schwartz if you're an everydayer. I've been carrying the banner of his fan club, for a while here. He's so good. And if we look at the stats coming into this game, he's leading in points right now, with 6 points. Jaden Schwartz, Connor McDavid leading with 7 points for the Oilers coming into tonight's game. Jaden Schwartz is also our goals leader with 3 goals. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins leads for the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid, of his 7 points, 6 are assists. So there you go. Is he due tonight? Absolutely not. Jaden Schwartz also leads with 3 assists. Some things as far as the team stats. Now, I'm going to go to faceoffs because you heard Allison Lucan asked Shane Wright about this. I told you earlier in the episode, and we've been talking about throughout the week, that Lane Lambert wants to see faceoffs be better. 52.9% clip, 7th best in the NHL. That is Edmonton from the dot. 45.5%. That's 28th in a 32-team league, the Seattle Kraken. So that's a number, even though, as you heard Allison say, there are some things that go into that actual number. But, it's a stat, so we got to talk about it. 2.75 goals per game for the Seattle Kraken compared to 3 on the nose for Edmonton. That puts them at 15th in the league, us at 23rd. 3 goals against per game for Edmonton versus 2.75 goals against for the Seattle Kraken. We're in 12th. They're in 13th overall. We're coming off of a win. They too are coming off of a win. They got an overtime win against Ottawa and a win over Montreal. We have that win against Winnipeg, a shutout at that. Other things to keep in mind, a really good power play for Edmonton. 28% clip, 6th overall. We are at 21.7%, and that has us at 13th. For me, keys to this game is to play within your game. Don't get sped up. Don't get caught up in some of the storylines. Again, because of what we talked about at the top of the show, this can be a very emotionally charged game. We have the team coming back after being on the road for 6 games, 12 days. There's going to be a lot of emotion, and that could be a good thing if you let it be. But I think what I want to see is have this Seattle Kraken team keep it tight, keep it simple, keep the communication lines open, everyone execute and do their job at the highest level. Don't try to do too much. Certainly don't do too little. But, this has to be a solid performance. I think I wouldn't be surprised if the Kraken take a little time just to refine their focus early in this game. But hopefully that doesn't come at the expense of losing the lead, because we have talked about this, or talked about it before the Winnipeg game, but the Seattle Kraken are 3-0-1 when scoring first. It's also important, that's Edmonton. The Kraken are 4-1-1 when they score first. The Oilers are 3-0-1. The Oilers are 1-3-0 when their opponent scores first. The Seattle Kraken are also winless when their opponent scores first. Now, when the teams are leading after the first period, very small sample size, pretty much negligible to even mention. It hasn't happened, for the Seattle Kraken at the time that we had these stats. So something there. I think actually, because Jaden's goal in Winnipeg was, I guess, in the second frame. Yes, because it was a wild and crazy I remember now. Okay. So the first frame is pretty tight for the Kraken. I was like, didn't we have a lead? We did have the lead, but not in the first period. Okay. When leading after the second period, the Kraken are 4-0. 4 0-0, which would have included the Winnipeg game. The Edmonton Oilers are 1-2-0 when trailing after 2 periods. So all of that is my way of saying, I just like to look at those numbers sometimes. That's just my way of saying, let's get after it. Let's score early. I do think that the Seattle Kraken will need to, and again, to kind of feel out the game, probably be defensive minded. I want them to try and hold Edmonton early on, but obviously to be the first team to score. So what that looks like, maybe it is like a Winnipeg situation where we get a score in the second frame, but I just get the sense that there's going to be a lot of emotion around this game. It might take a little while to get settled in, which, is understandable. First home game in a while. So I'd be okay if we get out of the first period with no score, but a really good defensive effort. And then the guys will have their legs under them and they can get after it. It's not going to be an easy game, but as Striatic said, it will be a good test for the Seattle Kraken team. All right, I'm going to, it's about time to get ready for the official pregame. I just wanted to come on here. I mean, I did know I was going to do a pregame, and then we heard from Brandon Montour, and it kind of threw the plans that I had out the window. And sometimes that's going to happen, and understandably so. But yeah, I think the emotions are high, but the spirits are also good. I think the Winnipeg game definitely gave them some more confidence. Dave, I love seeing you here. Also, I'm feeling a Matty goal to get us going. Listen, I believe strongly in the year of Beniers. Also, he's kept his facial hair. So, we'll see. I'd love a year of Beniers goal. I hope that I get to use my AI, artificial intelligence bubbles for another win. But this will be a good test for the Kraken regardless. They have some rest. They weren't on the ice yesterday. They had some rest. So hopefully that will bode well. But again, you have to start with a strong defensive game. I want to see us score first. I guess that's technically my second official key to the game. And then you have to be able to win the special teams battle as much as possible. For me, that means trying to stay out of the box against this Edmonton team. We've seen undisciplined penalties from the Seattle Kraken. I mean, that Ellie Tolvanen penalty, was that in the Winnipeg game? Yeah. They got their first power play, and 24 seconds into that power play, Tolvanen with one of those, you're just kind of reaching and you're in your offense. The guys on the radio talked about this, and I'm glad they did, because it's what I was talking about with the Berkeley Catton penalties in the preseason. Listen, I get it. Those are easy things to correct, but you know what that means? They're also easy enough not to do. And it's a little bit of a different situation trying to get Berkeley Catton to do that versus, Ellie Tolvanen should kind of know better. It didn't impact us, but I want to see us get away from those kinds of things. And so we have to be able to be disciplined, move our feet, stick to stick, body to body, not get those silly penalties, and really stay out of the box as much as possible. I do wonder what physicality or how a physical style of game will impact what we see. The Seattle Kraken have played a little heavier, but then also they've had some injuries, so it hasn't been as consistent as I think they wanted to see it be. I don't know. Wow. That was really strange. I just got a surge of, I have been a little verklempt. Some of it is just because I ate something a little more acidic, but that the feeling that I just had, I was about to say, whoa, there it goes again. This is really strange. Brandon Montour has been a big part of the physical game early on. He's been a big part of just really getting after it, hunting the puck early on for the Kraken. And so, I got really emotional just now, or I felt like a surge, like an energy. I don't know how to really describe it. As I was getting ready to say that, that's so strange. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what to expect from Brandon Montour. I will accept whatever we get from Brandon Montour. He is the one person that I am not putting any expectations on. I'm just so grateful that he entrusts this moment in his process to us. I mean, really to his teammates, but as an extension to us, right? As viewers, as fans, as media. So I will accept whatever he gives us. And I'm grateful for it. And he will be a reminder to me, at least, that lifetime, this world, this shared experience is so precious. And I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to all of you who came on live. I'm grateful to those who follow us. I truly mean that. I say it. I don't know if you get tired of me saying it, but it's true. I've had my own journey and my own path with grief and other things. And life is hard, man. Life is hard, but sometimes you get to see a person work through it, and do it in a triumphant arena, quite literally an arena like hockey. So I don't expect anything. And I'm grateful for every single second that we get from Brandon Montour tonight. And of course from the team as well, who, it's a good group of guys. Whoa. It's a good group of guys. This Kraken team, I'm not around them a lot, but I can say confidently that they are always respectful. They are thoughtful. They, they show up. That's the one thing we can say about this team. Now, maybe I had some thoughts about whether they showed up or not last year, but I mean in a way that, for the most part, they can take the hard. And so I've been in toxic places where the last thing you want to do when you're feeling vulnerable is to go to those places. I don't think Seattle is one of those places. Overwhelmingly, I've never gotten that feeling, and I think they'll show up for Monty tonight. So I guess we'll see what happens. I'm not going to do a post game tonight, but we will have a special guest. Someone who's at the game tonight is going to hop on with us. We're going to do I'll have a show up Monday. It's a travel day for me, and then we'll record another show Monday night that will be our show for Tuesday, but you'll probably hear us talk about tonight's game because we have a special guest, and that special guest will be at the game tonight, but I'll tell you more about that on the next episode of Locked on Kraken. I got through it, folks. I mean, again, like these surges of energy and almost emotion have been hitting me. I don't know what that is. I don't want to, imply anything, but I definitely am a vibey kind of person. So take that as you will. But here we go. Truly, truly, I mean it today. I mean it every day. And I started this, I don't exactly know why, but I think it's because of what I said earlier. It's important for me to make sure that we're extending grace to each other. Life is freaking hard, man. Life is so hard sometimes. So a reminder, I'm looking right in the camera, saying it to my audio listeners. Please, please take a moment to be kind to yourself, whatever that means for you, whatever that means. Take care of a need of yours, at least one for today. If you need me to say it this way, I give you permission. I give you permission to do that. You absolutely deserve it. And if you have the energy and the heart space, be kind to someone else as well. Let's hold fast. Let's stay true. And loud and proud, we say, let's go Kraken. Let's break the freeze, introduce the new Seattleites, and just big hugs to you, Brandon Montour. All right, I'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out, everybody.